is going to be really tackling one of the main points of Islamophobia. What we see, if you look at history, a lot of the changes that happen have always happened through student activity. So student activism is probably one of the most important aspects of activism as a whole. So it's really imperative that we focus on this and see how we can actually change things, what's happening within the student movement, and how we can actually combat Islamophobia. So we've got a great lineup. So my role is very simple, it's going to be introducing people today. Our first speaker is Nabeel Ahmed. He's the president of the Federation of Student Islamic Societies, that's FOSIS. The organisation was established in 1963 to cater for the needs of Muslim students in the UK and Ireland. And Nabeel will hopefully give us an insight into how the Muslim community and Muslim students are reacting to Islamophobia. Thank you very much, Nabeel.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. I begin in the name of God, the Lord of mercy, the giver of mercy. It's actually quite sobering and I would say equally quite inspiring to follow Sister Kinza, who was in the last session. It's going to be quite actually hard to follow that up. The other thing I want to start just by saying as well is to echo what Sister Laura McDonald actually said a bit earlier on the platform. I've been sitting here throughout the conference today, and what's been really positive for me is the diversity and the balance of the speakers on our platform today, but also you guys here in the audience as well, and those of you that are left here for this now. I'm the president of the Federation of Student Islamic Societies, and I thought I'd just touch upon what that actually means just before I go into my speech. And as president of FOSIS, we're the national Muslim student body, so we travel around campuses around the UK and Ireland, and especially since 7/7, since I've been active as a student, things have definitely changed, and I hopefully can share some of those reflections today. I also want to say, and I want to thank the organisers as well, that I think it's quite important, it's quite useful that we've got this issue of Islamophobia on campus in our agenda, given how important campus is to the future and to the aspiration of the Muslim community. So thinking about today, I thought, what could embody the struggle that we're facing? What hits the nail on the head right now? And then I came across this quote. This, he said, is preeminently the time to speak the truth, the whole truth, frankly and boldly. Nor need we shrink from honestly facing conditions in our country today. This great nation will endure, as it has endured, will revive and will prosper. So first of all, let me assert my belief that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Nameless, unreasoning, unjustified terror, which paralyzes needed efforts to convert retreat into advance. The person who said that, I can see a few nods in the audience, was President Franklin D. Roosevelt, the former American president, you could say perhaps quite ironically speaking about today. But very easily I thought this quote could be applied to the situation facing Muslim communities here today in Europe. Now when we hear this quote, when I hear this quote, people often point to the rhetoric, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. That's not the interesting part for me. The interesting part and the really important part for me is the need to, and I quote, convert retreat into advance. The need, I would say, is for us as a community to get off the back foot and onto the front foot, which really brings me nicely onto the topic at hand. Amidst everything that is facing Muslim communities at the moment, but more than that, I would say this real tide of fear and of insecurity across Europe right now, we have to really realise that the future of our communities are studying right now at universities around the country. These people are not only just going to go on to become your future professionals, your future doctors and your dentists and so forth, but they're also your change makers of society who are at university right now. They're your future professionals. These people are going to be the people that are going to be making a difference once they leave university. And it's with that in mind, I really think that Muslim students at university today are without a doubt the necessary means to convert retreat into advance. When you consider firstly that the Muslim employment rate in this country is 20% lower than the national average. And when you realise that half the Muslim population is younger than the age of 25, I think we're at a sort of crossroads. Where are we going? You see, it shouldn't surprise us that Muslims are at the bottom end of the economic ladder, or that we often find ourselves entrenched in ghettos. What it should make us realise that we have to do the best we can to ensure that the young kids going to university at the moment are able to be that ladder that climbs our community out of the issues it is facing. So you may ask me, Nabeel, what is the actual issue of Islamophobia at university campuses? And speaking to people just in my community in Bradford, I realised how little it is known about this. Let me break it down for you. Firstly, the actual issue of Islamophobia, you could say, just a couple of miles away from here, just a couple of years ago, at City University, 3 Muslim students were actually stabbed coming out of their programs here, right here in London. Okay? There have been a series of other issues. I think I first experienced Islamophobia when I was at university in Manchester. You know, like every student, I was involved in the pro-Palestine motion, and I got a barrage of abusive students saying, "You're a terrorist." That happens. But also, similarly, and I've witnessed cases around the country, though there is really poor reporting, we have to do more about this, cases of sisters with their hijabs being torn off. And I know one example, one case that we had to fight for as well. That's the actual Islamophobia we're facing at university, but I want to take a step back from that and just say, away from the actual safety that's taking place, what's the atmosphere? And the atmosphere is really one that needs quite a lot of attention. Now I'm just going to put the question to the audience. How many of you have come across a headline at some point in the newspaper that said something like, Muslim students are being radicalised at university? Any hands up about this? Okay, you read too many tabloids. This is something that, you know, amidst all the positive work we've had to address, and it's an absolute myth. And what's absolutely really interesting as well is I speak to the universities on a regular basis. I speak to student unions around the country, and they very much know as well that this is not the case. But you will find that this is a narrative portrayed in your tabloids, but especially, and I would say, this is really contributing to the atmosphere on campus, your tabloids, and especially the growth of certain think tanks, which narrate a version of events of what's going on campus, where students, Muslim students who are particularly active in doing that good thing, are then portrayed to be the enemy. I myself, actually, once on the radio 4 in a debate, the person who was opposing me said, "Nabeel, you're not part of the solution about extremism on campus, you're part of the problem." So this is some of the issues that we're facing. And when you're a Muslim student on campus, and when you see these tabloids, and you see these think tanks churning out results, I think what that is actually creating is this climate of suspicion, this climate of fear. Even though Muslim students have responded remarkably well to this, but practically I have seen prayer rooms being taken away from Muslim students in certain places, and I also have seen, although limited, examples of spying on Muslim students in campus, and there was a case especially at the University of Dundee in Scotland not too long ago. Now, moving forward, I really think you've got hopefully a feel of what's going on campus. To ensure that the fight is won against all of these, it can't just be left to the students, but I think, as Sister Laura and many others have said today as well, it requires a collaborative effort from civil society. It's the same ideology held between those flouting Islamophobia in the media and the same people and the same ideology of those who are trying to shut down prayer rooms on campus. So we seriously need this unity, but also, the brother said before from France, this action against all of this. Not only do those that attack us stand to attack Muslims, but you take another step back from this as well, and this is really when you start to get the buy-in of the wider community, is that you realise that their attacks actually falls down upon the fundamentals upon which the society rests. So we have fundamentals established in our British legal system, including that you're innocent, for example, before you're proven guilty, okay? A lot of people don't realise that at the moment, including the need for equal and fair access at university as well. I haven't seen that, and I'm sure Rizwan is going to speak a little bit about that. What we have to realise here, brothers and sisters, is that it's not just about Muslims, and we need to speak out about this. I want to finish off, and I thought it was really important, and one of the things I liked about this conference is that amidst the analysis and understanding what's going on as well, is that we can hopefully have some practical actions there as well. Three things that I really want to touch upon, and I'm going to have to get through them pretty quickly. Forgive me, Shannon. The first, and I think being a young Muslim who has great hope for this community as well, I think despite everything we have to be really careful not to fall into a victim mentality. Nor, I think, is there any justified reason to do that. While it's very tempting, we shouldn't just feel like the other in this society. We shouldn't, feel so ostracized. We shouldn't, and I think we shouldn't lose our confidence as a community as well. We have a lot to smile about as a community, and it is with a smile that we should be able to forcibly confront the challenges that we're facing. These myths about terror, 99.6% of terrorist attacks in Europe in the past few years were actually not to do with Muslims. We have the data to stack these up about loyalty. Over the Gallup poll, there's serious research that's gone into this. Overwhelming majorities of Muslims in France, Germany and the UK are actually more loyal to the country than the non-Muslim populations. British Muslims are more likely than others to strongly identify with their national institutions. So we have a lot to be proud about, and there's a lot of positive stuff going on in the community to look to. And it's when we're not confident, and it's when we feel like we're constantly under attack without that smile on our face, is when I think that we'll start to fall on the back foot and not be able to confront these challenges head on. The second point, and I really feel this, there's a hadith of the Prophet, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, "Let whosoever believes in God and the last day honour his neighbour." And I'll probably finish with this actually as well. I, until recently, worked in a warehouse part-time, where most people are not the kind of people that went to my grammar school and so forth. And this lady I became extremely close to, and she said to me after a year of working with her and talking about so many things, she said to me, "Nabeel, before I met you, I used to think all Muslims are terrorists." That's what she said. And she's an absolutely lovely lady as well. The point here is that I don't think, as a community, we're speaking enough to our neighbours at a very basic grassroots level. And I know that when she meets her friends now, she speaks out when she hears anti-Islamic rhetoric. And I think that's something that we need to realise, and I think one of the speakers said earlier, is that when we speak to each other, we'll understand each other. And despite the tabloids that are out there and so forth, I think, inshallah, and God willing, we have people power on our side, as long as we talk to our neighbours, and as long as we confront these challenges confidently head on. So I ask all of us to take action, to realise the importance of our students at university as well, and to speak to our neighbours. Thank you very much.